ils brûlent les feux rouges, ils montent sur les trottoirs. Enfin bon, c'est du grand n'importe quoi, quoi.
En mars, on a eu 30 accidents, plus de 30 en avril et 47 pour le mois de mai.
La trottinette électrique, c'est futur, c'est-à-dire que c'est écologique et c'est rapide.
Welcome to a new edition. I'm Nadia Sharbi, and this week we're putting the focus on France's beef with electric scooters. The so-called free-floating vehicles first made their appearance on Parisian streets in the summer of 2018. Exactly a year on, the fleet has grown exponentially, as has the number of users, but also of detractors. Because with this childlike means of transportation come a number of safety and courtesy issues that seem to have taken city officials by surprise. Well, according to a recent survey, 69% of French people view electric scooters as a plus for urban mobility, a figure that goes up to 80% for 18 to 35-year-olds. 1 in 10 Parisians is now thought to have used this service. But with the number of sometimes deadly accidents on the rise and the nuisance of abandoned scooters on already crowded pavements, almost as many people now view them as a problem.
They're everywhere, and thousands of people use them every day. In less than a year, electric scooters have become a huge success in Paris and major cities across France.
La trottinette, pour moi, c'est le futur.
For me, electric scooters are the future. They're environmentally friendly and they're fast.
Et c'est rapide.
You just take your phone, you scan the code, and that's it. Compared to a bike, which you have to park in a specific spot, it's much more convenient.
Environmentally friendly, fast and convenient, but also dangerous. There's been a huge rise in the number of accidents involving scooters in France. It's too early to give any specific figures, but more than a third of French people say they feel in danger when around the two-wheeled vehicles. At least 2 people have died since January. And yet, many users are unaware of the risks.
I don't have a helmet, I'm not wearing gloves, I know I'm at risk of having an accident. And if that happened, I could only blame myself.
In this hospital in central Paris, this surgeon says he's treated dozens of people who hurt themselves after falling off their scooters.
Here you see a fracture with at least 3 fragments, 25 kilometers per hour. That's the speed of a horse galloping, so just imagine falling off a horse. That's the same level of trauma.
Electric scooters are also a nightmare for pedestrians. Isabelle van Brabant was walking home through a park when a scooter crashed into her, breaking her wrist in 2 places. An accident that's come at the cost of her career as a pianist.
I didn't see the scooter, and I didn't hear it because it came from behind me. And I fell on my right arm, and I broke it.
Isabelle van Brabant is suing Paris authorities for failing to protect its citizens. She wants to put an end to anarchy and also warn users. That's because most providers do not include insurance in their rental schemes. The terms of service are clear. You use the scooters at your own risk. In other words, you're solely and fully responsible for any accidents.
I had no idea.
It means you're not insured.
Pacifying the streets is a key challenge for authorities and insurance companies. Here on the banks of the River Seine, a workshop teaches users how to stay safe on electric scooters.
Qu'est-ce qu'on a devant nous? On dirait du béton. Voilà, c'est un trou. On a un gros trou devant nous. Et du coup, ce qu'il faut faire quand on est dans ce genre de situation, il faut ralentir, bien regarder ses angles morts, regarder s'il n'y a pas des gens à côté de nous.
These simple measures help to minimize risks. However, users may still have to take out adequate insurance, or at least make sure they're protected.
Just as you would for an expensive piece of jewelry or home appliances, you should always notify your insurance company and make sure you're covered if you cause any harm while riding an electric scooter.
As the number of accidents continues to rise, local authorities in France have responded in different ways. 2 cities, Nantes and Toulouse, have banned electric scooters. Here in Paris, the city has set up a local brigade of security agents to enforce rules. Authorities say more than 1,000 tickets have been issued and hundreds of scooters have been impounded in recent months.
Well, from just 2 providers of donkless e-scooters a year ago, 12 are now battling it out on the streets of Paris. Together, they scatter over 20,000 vehicles across the city every day, a figure that's expected to double in the coming months, much to the disquiet of Paris City Hall. And beyond their arrive first, ask later tactics, these firms that hail from the US and China are also coming under scrutiny for their controversial business model.
In the French capital, these logos have become a familiar sight. There are 12 different e-scooter operators in Paris. Fierce competition that can be cause for confusion and wariness, especially given that 20,000 new scooters are expected to pop up by the end of the year. Lime is the current leader in Paris. The company launched a year ago and says it holds 2/3 of the market, thanks to a visibility campaign which some deemed aggressive. The American operator dismisses the criticism.
We have a strategy that's pretty much the opposite of Uber's, who started operating in cities before consulting the local authorities. The first thing we did was meet with local leaders, and we do not in any way want to invade a city with our scooters. We want to offer the right amount of vehicles. In Paris, there's one of the strongest demands in the world, so a large fleet is necessary.
Making sure they don't upset the authorities may be the only way to stay in business. A new law on mobility is set to be voted in at the end of the summer, and once it is, the city of Paris should launch a tender. Out of 12 current operators, only 2 or 3 will stay in business. For the companies, this means anticipating the local leaders' priorities is paramount. Some have already capped their engine speed capacity to 20 kilometers an hour, while others have come up with solutions to incite better parking practices.
So here, I've just parked in a zone recommended by Voy. So now the application is going to let me complete my journey with a €1 discount. 10,000 such zones have been identified in Paris. This means Voy users will park responsibly in Paris and avoid pavements.
A €1 discount on journeys that cost an average €3. Voy's model is unlikely to help these companies become financially sustainable. At the moment, none of them are. It's estimated a scooter needs to stay in circulation for 4 months to become profitable. Currently, their typical lifespan is 3 months.
C'est ce que je viens de trouver. Oh, la chance.
To try to save money, companies use juicers to charge the scooter's batteries. Stan is self-employed. He collects the vehicles and plugs them in at home.
In this economic model, the chargers, the juicers become the variable, the only part of the formula on which it is possible to save money, because it is impossible to manufacture scooters for less. It's difficult to raise the price for consumers, so the rest of the costs are cut and the juicers come into play, and they are actually making less and less money.
Companies say they want to professionalize the work of juicers in the future. Often that means using subcontractors, and does not necessarily lead to better working conditions.
Well, while other European capitals such as Berlin or London have perhaps been quicker to regulate or even ban free-floating e-scooters, Paris has only just started taking measures. First with a crackdown on speed, but also by updating its traffic laws, a change of pace that's set to become nationwide.
The city of Paris wants to put an end to what it calls anarchy on its streets. The culprits, electric scooters, will be subjected to new regulations starting in July. Currently, the vehicles can be parked anywhere on the sidewalk, provided they don't block pedestrian movement. Soon, they will only be tolerated on actual parking spaces, initially designed for mopeds and bicycles. The city will create 2,500 more to accommodate the scooters by the end of the year. E-scooter drivers will also have to slow down. A 20km/h speed limit will be enforced on roads and 8km/h in pedestrian areas and parks. Driving on the sidewalk is already banned and punishable by a €135 fine. The same policy will be extended to parks and gardens. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo also wants to reduce the number of scooters in circulation, currently an estimated 20,000, by only approving 2 or 3 operators. In September, a decree including the vehicles in the country's highway code and recommending the use of protective gear is expected to be issued. A new law on mobility will also be implemented.
Well, on that note, at the sedate speed of 6 kilometers per hour and with a helmet, we leave this edition. I'll catch you later on France 24.